Hello and welcome to Linux World. In the last video we talked about in our initial install and initial config, we saw how to install Red Hat Linux 9, and we also talked about how to download a copy of Red Hat image ISO file from redhat.com, an evaluation version, or you can create a developer's account for free, which will allow you to use the Red Hat image to deploy up to 15 machines, meaning you can get updates for all those 15 machines. In this video, we will talk about the initial config after the install. So if you remember, in the last video, we had deployed test VM00. We will now move forward with this VM and do the initial config. So let's first thing first is we have to make sure that we have access to it remotely. To do that, first we need to launch the web console. We are accessing the VM directly from the console. This means, think of this as a monitor hooked up to your PC, right? You want to access your PC and see what's inside the PC, and you physically sit at your PC and the monitor is attached to your PC. This is what this console means. So we are going to log in from the console. Make sure that we can log in with our root account. Okay. And first thing first, we're going to do is access to this machine remotely, because in this console you cannot do certain things. You cannot copy and paste, you cannot scroll properly. So this console is for only when you lose your remote access and you want to come back and fix something, or you lost network connectivity to the server. All right, so to check, first thing we're going to check is a service called SSHD, because we're going to use SSH protocol to log in remotely. Stands for Secure Shell Login. Okay, so to check that, we're going to use a command called systemctl status SSHD, which stands for SSH daemon. Daemon is another word for a service, and seems like it's active and running. Another thing we're going to check, its configuration file, and make sure that user root can log in remotely. I believe we have checked that option during the install process to allow it, but we're going to check the configuration file one more time. So all the configuration files are under etc directory. Under etc, we're going to go to SSH. And under SSH, we're going to go to sshd_config. Open that up, and we're going to search for a string. If you press / here, you can search for permit root, and there you go. We are at this line, permit root login. If you see my underscore cursor blinking, it says prohibit password. So what that means is it is not allowing root to log in remotely with a password. It will allow root to log in remotely, but only with a key. So we haven't set that up yet. Okay, so the Red Hat 9 system is now coming in more secure, where even if you check the box to allow root to log in remotely, it only allows it to log in if you have a key exchange, meaning passwordless. There's a key exchange. You can log into the system from a certain system. We're going to talk about this passwordless login in the future, but for now, I'm going to uncomment this line and just say yes. Escape out of there. Right quit, bang, to write and quit my changes into that file. And then since we've made changes to the SSH configuration file, we're going to restart the daemon. Systemctl restart SSH daemon, SSHD. Okay, So I'm going to stay logged in through the console, and I will try and log into the system remotely. Before I do that, I want to see what's the IP address of this machine. To get that, I will type in ifconfig. Okay, so ifconfig is not working because, like I said, during the install, I'm installing a very bare minimum system. It's a minimal install. We're not going to have any packages. A lot of packages are not going to be installed. So this is a good practice. If you log into a system and some of your commands are not working, you should know how to install it. But right now, there's another command that we can use to see the IP address, which is IP space A. And my IP address is on section number 2 here, 10.0 inet address, 10.0.0.111. Okay, so let's check. This is the console. It's like a monitor attached to your PC or system, right? Now I'm going to use what's called a terminal on Mac to log in remotely to that system. So we're going to use SSH protocol. We're going to use the user root at 10.0.0.111. Okay. If you are on a Windows system, you can use Windows command prompt, or you can download a software called PuTTY. PuTTY. It's a terminal. So to log into Linux, Unix-like systems, you need a terminal. Okay, so I'm just going to use a default native terminal that comes with MacBook and log into the system. Okay, so I'm seeing a warning. It says warning, remote host identification has changed. This is just ignore that. I'll fix it for now. Don't worry about this. Is something because the IP address has been used before. We'll talk about that in another video. So let me just fix it. Root. Okay, so let's clear the system out. Type in clear and press the up arrow to go to my previous commands and press enter again. So there you go. It's fetching the fingerprint. It's okay. And type in my root's password. And there you go. You can see the host name, test VM. You can see it here as well. So we are successfully logged into the system remotely. Now let's move forward and set up other things in the initial setup. Okay, so now that we are able to log into the system remotely, the first thing we're going to do is turn off the firewall, as it's a good practice during the testing and learning phase, so that it doesn't block anything. So to do that is we can check the service first. System CTL status, firewall D status. Check the firewall daemon. Must have made a mistake. System CTL firewall, status firewall D. So it's running. So we will stop that service. Until we learn more about how the firewall works and we can control it. It's a good idea to just stop it. Okay, and once we stop it, we want to disable it so it doesn't start on a reboot. So system CTO disable firewall D. if you go up here, when we ran the command systemctl status, it was running and it was enabled. So we want to disable it too. That way, when we reboot the system, it doesn't get started back up. So now if I click the up arrow and check the status, it's turned off. Okay. You don't see any green active running sign here. It's inactive and dead. So that's good. The second thing we want to disable is something called SElinux, which stands for Security Enhanced Linux. We want to turn that off as well until we learn more about how to control it. And a lot of the places, these two settings are turned off, and the security is maintained and managed by Firewall, a networking team specifically designed to maintain firewall servers. So let's check the status of SElinux. To do that, we do get enforce. It's in enforcing mode. We want to turn that off. So to turn this off, we will go to its configuration file. etc, like I said, all the configuration files are under etc. semanage.conf. This has changed a little bit, the location of the file, and under this file, if I can find the settings for SElinux, I don't think it's in here. Let's just go to the SElinux folder here. I see a config direct file. I think it's config. Oh yeah. So let's set the line numbers. So okay, so here we are going to change it to, if we go up here to line number 3, you see you have 3 options: enforcing, permissive, and disabled. We're gonna go with disabled. I'm gonna make a separate video. This is a whole topic in itself. And quit save that changes. And for this to take effect, now you need to reboot the system. So what we will do is reboot and press enter. So you can see that I lost my connection to my new machine, and I dropped down to my previous machine terminal since it's rebooting. If you go back here, you should see this. If you launch the web console again, you see the system is rebooting. Okay, you don't have access to it. Once it's rebooted, we can then go ahead and log in again, and then make sure those 2 settings are turned off: Firewall D and SElinux. So I can either watch the console here, or I can start a active ping to this IP address and see. It's right now it's pinging, so maybe it's already up. Let's try and log in. SSH root at 10.0.0.111. Okay. All right, so system CTL status firewall D is turned off. Get enforce, it's disabled. Okay, so we're good on that. Now the next step would be to configure the IP address. Right now we have an IP address assigned to this machine, which is this 10.0.0.111, which was given to it automatically, and it's not a permanent IP address. When you get an IP address automatically, it's on a DHCP protocol, which stands for Dynamic Host Control Protocol, which means it's only leased out to the hosts on a temporary basis. About 2 weeks, it may change. So we want to make that static. We don't want to change, get IP address changing on us. That could break things. So our network configuration file location has been changed on Red Hat 9. If I run the command host name by itself, host name CTL, it'll give me information about the host name and some information also about the version of my Red Hat Linux I'm running, which is 9.1. So starting at Red Hat 9, the location is no more etc sysconfig network scripts. It is changed. It is completely managed by the network manager service. So it's under, if I go to cd etc network manager and system, I can just press tab completion connections. So I am in this location and I have a file here called ENS192. If I run IP address, you can see that my interface here is ENS192. It's only one interface assigned to it. It's an Ethernet interface. Think of it as you plug in the Ethernet wire from your router to a physical laptop. That's what this is. And the first interface is LO, stands for loopback. It's just an interface that the system talks to itself on a 127.0.0.1 IP address. It's a loopback. It goes in a loop. If I ping local host, it pings itself. And this ping is happening on this interface. So, with that being said, let's clear the screen out with Control L. And we are in this location. And in this location, I have a file associated with my interface name. So let's look into that file. ENS192 connection. There is some information about the ID of the interface, the UUID, and the IPv4, IP version 4 method was auto. That's how it got the IP address, and we don't want that. So let's get out of here, and we will change the settings with the command line. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is check the device. The command is nmcli, network manager CLI, device, or just D would be fine. And you can see that my ENS192 Ethernet interface is connected. Okay, another command I'm going to run is nmcli -p, space -p, and it gives me information about the IP address that's assigned to this interface. Okay, the loopback is information and some DNS configuration. Right now it's talking to my router to get to resolve the domain name. We're going to cover DNS in a separate topic if you need that. Okay, this video is just about configuring initial setup after the install. I will make some other series of videos, basic videos covering some basic topics. If you don't understand some of the stuff I'm talking about here, you can watch those. Okay, so let's clear the screen out. And we saw nmcli device information, and let's look at that again. nmcli -p would give you some information about the DNS configuration and the IP. Okay, let's clear the screen out with Control L, and let's type in our first network command to make this more permanent, this IP address. So I'm going to do is nmcli con modify. Con stands for connection, or you can write connection and then ACTION connection ENS192, and I'm going to change the IPv4 IP version 4 address. Addresses, it's going to be 10.0.0. We're going to use the same one that was given to us automatically, make it permanent. 111/24 is my subnet. Okay. ENS192. MCLI device is ENS192. Not understood. Try parsing help instead. MCLI connection modify. So we missed a parameter here. We said connection. We want to modify it. Modify, and that should go through. So that's the IP address. And now we'll go and do IPv4 gateway. Gateway is going to be to my router in my VM network. It's 10.0.0.1. Okay. And then we will do DNS. I have a DNS server in my lab, which is 10. I'm going to specify 2 DNS servers. So in quotations, I'm going to do 10.0.0.104, and then if that doesn't work, go ahead and route yourself to the gateway and then go out from there. .1. So we have 2 DNS servers. Oh, sorry. .1. Okay. And the next one would be IPv4 DNS search. Since I have my own DNS server, I am hosting my own domain name, which is linux.world. You can skip the step if you don't have it, and you'll be fine. Okay, so I'll take the quotations out and just enter. And the last thing on this command modify I'm gonna do is make this method manual. We're manually setting this information in, and it's never going to change until we change it. Alright, and then I'm going to restart my services and restart this interface, but I'm not going to do it from my terminal here since I'm logged in remotely. If I do that, I will lose my connection to the server, and I won't be able to start it back up. So what I have to do this, it's like unplugging the wire and plugging back in, right? You're going to lose the network connection. If you lose the network connection, you're not going to be able to run any more commands. So we'll go back to the console. Okay, clear the screen out, and we will do an MCLI con down ENS 192. Bring it down. Successfully deactivated. And MCLI connection up ENS 192. Successfully activated. And then system CTL restart network manager. Network manager is spelled with the N being capitalized and M as well. So after we run these commands, we can exit out of the console, go back here. We still have the connection, and then now we can run the command and MCLI -P again to see that the IP address is still assigned to this. But in the DNS section, you see 2 DNS hosts that's going to talk to. It's going to serve my domain, which is linux.world, on this interface. Perfect. So let's do a test to ping google.com. And it's pinging. So I have a connection going out. And let's check this configuration file. I'm still sitting here in etc network manager under system connections directory. And if I list here, I have a file for my Ethernet connection. Everything in Linux is a file. So I can cat that out to view the file. And I ran the command here. The first section is connection. The second section is Ethernet. IPv6, we don't use that. We can disable that in the future. But so this is ID and everything. If you go to the IPv4 section now, you see that it has my IP address assigned to it. It has a line that says addresses, and DNS section has 2 IP addresses. When I ran those commands, it has a DNS search, it has my domain name, and the method is being manual. So it changed this file. Okay, I'm sure we can come in and write it directly into this file in this format and restart the service as well. I think it should work too. So network portion is done.